Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, we are going to go through a bunch of little news items that have come out over the previous days, and a lot of them which are happening over the weekend. To start with, we have a new esports trophy. This is the Gaijin Market Gacha trophy, where you can get yourself a bunch of camos and also support the esports efforts in War Thunder. These camos are usually a little bit different, not as historical or semi-historical, and a little bit wacky, and this is the third box that they've had. You can get the boxes randomly in the game, or you can buy them off the marketplace. Also, at the same time, there is, of course, the esports drops, which are going on this weekend. All you have to do is watch the esports channels, and you can get yourself some unique camouflages for specific vehicles. The BF-109 and also the Tiger are on offer this weekend, and I believe also next weekend. There's also the Armored Apex pack, which is available, and what you can get is the Apex Snail Abrams decal, and also the Snail Enhanced Player title, and also some GE 300 specifically. I'll leave a link to this little kind of pack in the comments. I'll put it in a pinned comment for you. Basically, when it comes to this pack, you are paying for the G, and then the other stuff is just nice bonuses. Another thing to also mention is there is some returning premiums that are coming too, and if you want to purchase anything off the Gaijin store, make sure to use the partner link. Right now, we are actually in the process of changing the decal, which is available for, the partnership link. So if you don't have it, this would probably be a time to pick it up. The way to get it is just to do the link and purchase anything off the Gaijin store, because the decal might not be around for too much longer, since it's going to get replaced. Anyway, let's get into the other news. So they're returning two premiums for sale over the weekend. The first one is the T2 Early. This is a Japanese jet premium that has come back in. And then also at the same time, you have the Hunter FGA 9. Both of these are available until the 22nd of July. If I'm honest with you, they're pretty pricey, but at least the matchmaking for them is slightly better. Let's have a look at both of these vehicles. So the first vehicle we're going to have a look at is the T2 Early. This is incredibly similar to the standard T2. The only real difference between it is how it kind of sits in the hangar. So you can see here with the T2 Early, if you have a look at the T2, it slightly is a different angle. That's literally it. There's hardly anything else different. You know, it has the same engines, which are set around the place. It has the same radar. It has the same armament. It is the same plane. The flight characteristics and everything else about it are basically the same. What you're getting out of the T2 Early is something very simple. An incredibly fast vehicle, which has pretty decent armament, and also, at the same time, no ability to defend itself against missiles apart from its speed. This means that you have to stay fast, you have to stay focused on what's around you, and then kind of attack from there. There are vehicles it can outmaneuver though, thanks to its pretty decent elevator, and also generally its maneuverability, especially against other high-speed targets like the F-104. And what it also got recently was quite a large buff, not because of the fact of the vehicle itself, but because of the fact that a lot of vehicles 10.0 and above got up-tiered pretty aggressively. But the vehicles between 9.0 and 10.0 were left. So this one is actually in quite a nice place right now. Now, my guess is this won't stay. It will actually change over the next few weeks or maybe a few months, but at least right now, it's in a pretty decent place. The vehicle has access to two M9Ps, which are good at this BR. Not the best, you know, there are vehicles running around with two R60s, but generally, or four R60s, but generally I would say two M9Ps is pretty nice. The only major issue with this is, as I said, it doesn't have access to countermeasures. So if somebody jumps you, and they have a missile which is better than an R3S or an AIM-9E, it's going to be very tough to get away from, because your only defense is speed. And as somebody who has spaded out the standard T2 and also the F1, I've had the same problem with both of the vehicles. The fact is, if you aren't the fastest around, you will just get hammered, and it's very annoying. The gun is really good. It's just the standard Vulcan that you see on pretty much everything. And also, at the same time, it does actually have some quite nice bombs. It does have the 750s, which are quite good, and also rockets, so you can use it in ground forces if you want to. And the thing that the T2 early and T2 are missing that they used to have was some CCIP options. So now it's a little bit harder to use them, but it still should be fine. So the basic thing is, at this moment in time, this vehicle is in a very good place. But the question is, how long does that stay? Because eventually they're going to do a rebalance of this 9.0 to 10.0 area, especially since they just did 10.0 to 11. The Hunter FGA-9 is one of those vehicles that's super awkward, I think is probably the way to put it. It's always been awkward in the game because of its flight characteristics and also its additions. So this vehicle has the Rolls-Royce Avon Mark 207, which puts out a decent amount of power, but at 9.3, you are dealing with a lot of vehicles that are just faster than it. The MiG-19s, the F-104s, the F-100s, all of these vehicles have better armaments and also are faster, apart from maybe the MiG-19, which has a worse armament, but still faster and generally much easier to fly. The FJ9 has access to 4 30mm Aidens, which is nice. It also gets 2 AIM-9E missiles and also a bunch of bombs and rockets as well. So you can technically take it into ground forces if you want to. It doesn't have a different BR. 9.3, I'm not sure is even a BR right now for ground for the British. Usually, there's a bunch of other stuff going around. But no, you got the VFM5, you got the Oliphant Mark II. Okay, so there's a little bit of a BR there that you can maybe run it at. So maybe in ground forces, it's going to be slightly useful. But in air, it doesn't have countermeasures. It has a problem, right? So you know how we talk about some vehicles, it's more about picking the weaknesses of the enemy because your vehicle is so strong, therefore you can fight the enemy on its weaknesses. Well, the Hunter FJ9 is kind of the opposite. Because it's not that fast, because it's not that maneuverable, because its armament is not that great, you actually have to pick the weaknesses that the enemy is using and hope that they don't maximize their strengths. So that is the problem right there with a vehicle like this. The FGA-9 with the BR decompression is in a good place compared to, the 10.0, 10.3 vehicles that have all gone up, but against even its standard BR of 9.3, it is too slow, its armament is not good enough, and also it cannot defend itself. So it's just in a really rough place. I would highly recommend getting a bunch of other vehicles, which will be more fun, especially since they'll be on offer later on. There's also a few changelogs that have turned up over the last few days, starting off with update 2.37.0.72. Basically, with aircraft, there was a bug that caused the camera in optical seeker view to not be pointed towards an active target in simulator battles. So that has been fixed. Seems a little bit odd that that was the case. And also a bug where activating mouse look caused the helmet mounted sight to not work when the third-person view has been fixed. I always found that a little bit odd. I was actually experimenting with that the last week or so, and yeah, it kind of sucked that that wasn't really working, but now seems to be done. There was some with the ground vehicles too, so there was a bug that caused the controller ground vehicles to be partially blocked after an airstreak. For example, the turret was unable to rotate, and menus would not open if the weapon selector was active at the time of the aircraft's destruction. This has been fixed. The weapon selection has such a weird way of working. I don't know what it is about it, but I feel like the integration of it compared to what we've seen previously, and the fact that it seems to affect all of the other vehicles which aren't using it. This has happened a few times, and I wonder why. I wonder what part of the code is doing that, because as I said, it's not something that is new. This idea has actually happened before. There was also a bug that caused the barrel smoke, such as the IS-2 1944, not deploying smoke properly after being dropped. That's been fixed. And also a bug that made it possible to use thermal images in third-person view after leaving the gunner's sight has been fixed too. That is a recurring bug and has happened a few times, actually. So that is definitely something that you got to be careful of, because obviously that is kind of game breaking. Having stuff like Gen 2 or Gen 3 thermals from a third person point of view makes a lot of vehicles much easier to play than previously. So I'm glad that they got it fixed, but that is a bug that has come back. Maybe it's come back in different forms, and that's how it's all been, but yeah, it is kind of nuts. The next update was update 2.37.0.74, and what this one did was change a bunch of the active radar homing missiles. For example, the AIM-128, the R-77, the R-Data, the Derby, the AM-4, the Mika, and the PL-12. So basically everything which isn't the R-7. Oh no, the R-77's there too. I suppose the BE. The autopilot has been reconfigured, trajectory has been optimized, and drag has been corrected. This is why I don't really like doing reviews on specific weaponry, and why I kind of find it annoying when, you know, people talk about the general statistics of them. Are they correct or are they incorrect? Because what will happen is there'll be something that's on the dev server, and then a bunch of videos will come out about testing of it and how it works, and then people will go insane about it because of how it works, and then it will get changed before it comes to live. And so all of those videos previously were completely pointless and actually don't show anything, but people are still stuck on that narrative from those videos, and then when it's on the live server, it fully gets changed again. If you want to see the full changes to all of these things, then I'll leave in the data mine, which actually goes through all of these things, but it is just nuts. The difference between what these missiles were and what they are now is insane. They also, with the AIM-128, the R-77, the Data, the AM-4, the Derby, the Mika, and the PL-12, there's a bug with the missiles overcorrecting at long distances to the target. That's been fixed too. So basically, everything that you've seen about active radar homing missiles is completely pointless unless it's in the last day. That's what this change means. And this is the issue. When people always ask me to cover, as I said, like these new weapons and go through them and, you know, basically talk about them and work out how they're working and everything like that. And I just find it completely pointless because they're just going to change it in the next week. It's why I don't make videos about, like, what are the best missiles in the game? What are the best rounds in the game? Because they just change all the time. And it's just impossible to keep up. But it's easy content, and also it's just stuff you can pump out over and over and over again, I suppose, because of the constant changes, but I just don't see a point in it. The AM-4 as well, the solid rocket engine type has been changed to dual thrust, and the R-Data missile mass has been increased to 120 kgs from 118. But as I said, if you want to see all of the changes, I'll leave a link to them in the description because I think it's pretty important if you enjoy those missiles to understand what you're firing. In ground vehicles as well, there was a bug that made it possible to use thermal images on scout UAVs in third-person view after leaving the gunner sight. That's been fixed as well. So yeah, once again, just people screwing with the thermals on ground vehicles, which is pretty fun. And then also, the replay destruction camera now shows the enemy SPAA that shot the player down while they were in the aircraft, which I think is pretty cool. It's nice to see that. I do find the camera a little bit funny when, you know, a CAS element destroys you, because it shows, like, the camera from the CAS point of view, and usually the dude's doing, like, a dipping and diving and wandering about the place, and it just looks hilarious. So, for me, I think it's just fantastic when that happens. Anyway, that's all of the changes and all of the minor news for the last few days. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day and have a great weekend. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.